I just want to give a quick shout out to Twitch
Hasanabi, no.
for losing, like randomly kicking me off the coverage, and I guess maybe changing my stream key in the middle of a fucking stream where 145,000 people were watching. That was a very cool thing that happened. That was very cool. I don't know how that happens. I don't know why that happens. But incredibly cool stuff that happened. You know, lost around 145,000 live viewers, and I'm sure that very cool stuff. Incredible. Incredible stuff. I am very excited that this happened.
I love you, Hasan, and miss you at Hasanabi.
I mean, I tweeted about it, like, literally. This is what happened. Here. Could not access a specified channel or stream key. Please double check your stream key. If it's incorrect, if it's correct, there may be a problem connecting to the server.
Hey, yo.
Like, how? How does that fucking happen, dude?
Pogu.
How the fuck does that happen? That's so fucking annoying, dude. It literally, like... whatever, let's keep going.
Expect over the next coming days, we're going to learn a lot about what was said behind closed doors. So there may have been other arm twisting going on, but I think it's unlikely that that pressure came from McConnell. He made his point clear, and I think the appearance of him trying to strong arm his members is just not the way he would operate, and I don't think he would have thought that it would be helpful, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, Garrett, thank you. We'll continue to monitor what's happening in both chambers right now as they continue to consider these objections. Today's chaos and violence unfolded in one of the most secure and sacred places in the country, as we have talked about. NBC's Harry Smith has a reminder of what it represents.
Refresh, Pogu.
The Capitol building that was so viciously overrun by rioters today is usually as proud a place as exists in America. It is where Franklin Roosevelt steadied a nation crippled by the Depression.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
And where John F. Kennedy called a country to service.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you...
Bro, did they wait, like, did they know this was gonna happen? Like, how the fuck did they cut a documentary already? Like,
trip
crazy.
or family vacation.
Bro, they did an ode, they're doing an ode to the Capitol.
It is palpable. To know
like,
that
yo,
the
it happened
business
4
is
hours ago,
carried
bro.
on there
The
makes your
day is
heart
not even
skip
over.
A beat or two. Through times of peace and times of conflict, through times of want and times of plenty, most of us have believed or wanted to believe that the Capitol was a place where the people's business was conducted. We the people's business. Throughout our history, representatives came from every corner of the country. And as the country grew, so too did the House and Senate. It grew to look more and more like we do. A place where men and women would come to work as equals, where color and origin was no barrier. I have sat in the House
shouts
chamber
out to the
for a
homies,
State of
the
the Union
Capitol,
address.
dude.
I remember
I
looking
feel
around
so
the
bad
room,
for the Capitol,
from
bro.
the Supreme Court. to
Can't
the
believe
Joint
the
Chiefs,
Capitol died
the
too
Cabinet,
soon, dude.
members of the House and Senate. The robust
The fucking
cheers,
walls, dude. The
stony
beautiful
silence,
inside walls.
a beautifully
The
imperfect
gavel.
mix. The founders conjured all this up, and while it sure was more diverse by gender and race
Nancy
than they
Pelosi's
ever
room.
imagined, it was their idea, the American idea. I have stood in line twice at the Capitol to pay respects to presidents who passed. Both times were the same. You'd expect, I guess, the crowd to be dominated by the party faithful of the president who died. But it wasn't like that. Whatever our differences, in the moment, unimportant. Like Republicans and Democrats lifting their voices together after 9/11.
So fucking absolutely shit on Muslims. Just and the Muslim world in general.
Our
A
most
moment of
imperfect
unity.
union suffered a jolt today.
You know, moments of unity like fucking deciding that black people are lesser than white people. You know, moments of unity like that. Ultimately, we could always get together in the halls of Congress and remember that there's always bipartisan compromise when it comes to cutting tax for the wealthy, when it comes to accelerating wars overseas, when it comes to expanding the American surveillance state, that we can cast aside our differences on whether you think women should be able to have autonomy over their own bodies, or that black people are full human beings that deserve liberty and equal protection under the law, or that, you know, we should just execute poor people on sight for the crime of not trying hard enough. We always cast aside our differences to make sure that we could deliberate on those kinds of issues where we could find bipartisan compromise.
Moment on 9/11,
Love you, Hasan.
where
Thanks
the
for
spontaneous singing of God Bless America by members of Congress. And I was thinking about that several times today, and then there it was. It feels like, obviously, that was a horrible day, but that
Alien
piece of
place
it feels like a part of America we won't get back.
You know, that day we were united because it was an outside force that was coming after us. It was coming after our way of life. What makes today so disturbing is it was an inside force. This came from within. Look, this is an inflection point for the country. This is an inflection point for our politics. This is an inflection point for a lot of things. Question is, to what end? Is this going to be a moment that everybody takes this breath and we realize this divisive
Fucking barcode bangs Andy, dude.
You know, it has been an emanating feature of our politics for most of my adult life. It's been getting worse and worse and worse, and we keep wondering, boy, at some point, are we going to hit a breaking point? You know, today felt like that breaking point. And the question is it going to be this breaking point that turns into an inflection point where we have a bunch of people who take a step back and realize country first? So let's see.
Yeah, and I was also reflecting on the notion that as journalists, we enjoy the give and take of politics and the surprises and the jockeying for position. We cover that sometimes like a sport. This isn't fun.
No, it hasn't been, Lester, and I have to tell you, I have been sick to my stomach about it because of that. And it's like, I certainly, I'm not ready to go back and cover regular politics right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, Chuck, thank you. It has been an extraordinary day.
Why? Bro, you literally do what I do. Fuck you mean you're not ready to cover regular politics? What? Bro, why are you suffering? It's not like you were there. What is this nonsense? Like fucking people like Elijah Wood was on Twitter like reply guying Meghan McCain. Meghan McCain was like, I really miss my dad. It's like, thanks, Meghan. Way to make this about yourself. Nobody fucking gives a shit about your dad, okay? You fucking psycho. And then Elijah was like, huh, you're right. We miss him so much. I'm feeling really alone right now. Like, does anybody need a hug? It's like, Bitch, what do you mean? You're sitting at home. The fuck do you mean, dude?
Welcome back.
What are you, a staffer? I didn't realize you were some fucking congressional staffer from Cornell who got a job because his dad knows one of the senators, and now you're literally pissing your pants, fearing for life because some fucking freak flew in from Kentucky and is literally foaming out of the mouth to kill Nancy Pelosi. Hobbit Andy over here. Oh no. I'm really fucking scared right now. Oh no. Yikes, dude. Is Elijah Wood American? I always thought he was British. Maybe he's not. I don't know.
We're getting our kids back to school. We got kids that are unable to get on the internet, unable to participate in their classes, may not have any adult supervision at home. They're struggling. They're falling even further behind. We need to do something to help them.
Elijah Wood looks British as fuck, bro. I do not believe you. When he's from Ohio? What the fuck? Yo, he literally looks like he's from the UK. I won't believe you. What? You're telling me he's from Ohio? That's crazy, dude. Sometimes, bro, it feels like the comment section leaks your empathy to an unhelpful point. I agree with you just about every political opinion you have, but I think your delivery is harmful sometimes. I just don't think that, like, I'm sorry, man. I don't think that, like, fucking Barcode Bangs is all that distraught. That's it. This is live, by the way. It is in the Senate.
At this special moment in our nation's history, we're not a government of Trump, by Trump.
Wait, no, it's not.
And for
Where
Trump.
is it?
We're a government of the people,
Yeah, it's in this.
by the people, and for the people. And the people have spoken. The people have spoken. Our job here today is to listen to them. I intend to do that. And I trust that my colleagues will join me in doing that as well. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
President. Senators recognized. Mr. President, first I want to thank all of the first responders who helped to protect this sacred chamber today, protect those electoral college ballots.
They'll be back.
Today is a special day.
Frogs can't stay away forever.
On a day when some 2,500...
I hate to do this, but it's literally top of the hour, and I have to run an ad, despite the fact that my fucking stream exploded earlier, but it is top of the hour every hour, which is time for a 6-second ad break. I didn't just start streaming.
On this day, the United States Senate is not debating how to get more life-saving vaccines into Americans' arms,
Here's the
or
ad.
how to put 2,000 badly needed dollars into their pockets. No, instead, we are using the first days of the new Senate and Congress to give time to our radical Republican colleagues' baseless and damaging claims of election fraud, all in an attempt to keep Donald Trump in office in violation of the United States Constitution.
Fuck.
There's a word for this. It's called sedition. All these unfounded objections to state electors are seditious. They are nothing short of an insurrection against the established order of the United States Constitution and our democratic republic. This is an historically shameful day for the Senate and for our country. To be clear, the notion that there are any meaningful voter fraud that has been identified in the 2020 presidential election is a dangerous, anti-democratic, treasonous fiction. Joe Biden won, Donald Trump lost, period. But that hasn't stopped the president and his supporters from making allegations of voter fraud in some 60 legal challenges across the country, heard by some 90 judges, including Trump judicial appointees. Not one of these challenges succeeded. Not one. And despite this reality, my radical Republican colleagues claim we must have a commission to investigate the fraud. Well, we do know one of the most undeniable instances of substantial and significant election fraud ever. We even have a recording and a transcript of it. It's President Trump talking like a mafia boss to the Georgia Secretary of State, a Republican no less, pressuring and threatening him to fix the election in Trump's favor and holding out the prospect of criminal prosecution if he doesn't. Find me 11,780 votes, Trump said. Well, someone should find Donald Trump a real lawyer and measure him for an orange jumpsuit, because the list of statutes that this latest shocking presidential phone call may violate is too long to recite. The president's words on that phone call, indeed his conduct since the election, demand a serious response, one much more serious than the sham before us today. First, federal and state law enforcement authorities should investigate Donald Trump for election fraud, extortion, conspiracy, and whatever other charges fit the bill. And if warranted, indict and try him for any crimes he has committed. Second, we must recognize that Donald Trump is and will remain a danger to our Constitution and our democracy. So while time is certainly limited, we should impeach Trump again and bar him from holding office in the future. And finally, we should abolish the Electoral College.
He should
It is a
be the
vestige
bare
of a
minimum
racist Jim Crow
progressive
America,
candidate.
and we have outgrown it. Every person's vote in every state should count just the same. One person, one vote. Election fraud and reform are very serious issues.
Him and Sherrod
Election
Brown
reform
are like
absolutely
literally
should be debated in Congress.
the
Which is
bare
why
minimum
instead
of what is
today's
acceptable.
kabuki theater,
That's where it
I invite
starts.
my Republican colleagues to stand
And I'm
up
not even
and say,
kidding,
yes,
like-
we need to protect and expand voting rights and election security. We need automatic voter registration.
Maybe even
We need
Sherrod Brown on
online
some issues
voter
is like too
registration.
conservative.
We need same-day voter registration. We should make Election Day
See,
a
I don't say
federal holiday.
charade no
we
more.
should restore voting rights to people with prior felony convictions. We should support independent redistricting commissions. Let's spend our time on the floor debating that, debating how to reduce the influence of big money in our political system, to slow the revolving door between government officials and lobbyists, to stop gerrymandering and voter suppression. That's the real election reform that we should be debating and supporting, not these shameful, craven, baseless objections. More than 350,000 Americans have died from the coronavirus. That is the truth. Nearly 8 million people have fallen into poverty because of the economic crisis caused by this virus. That is the truth. Wearing a mask saves lives. Vaccines are safe and effective. That is the truth. Joe Biden won. Donald Trump lost. That is the truth. I urge all my Senate colleagues to vote against these objections, affirm our democracy, and recognize that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will rightfully be sworn in on January 20th as the President and Vice President of the United States.
The senator from Connecticut is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Sorry about the outage.
Today was a stomach-churning, gut-wrenching moment in our history. And truly, it was an assault on the heart of our democracy. And I want to join in thanking the first responders and police, but I also want to thank others who have been heroes of our democracy, unsung in many instances. First, all of the election officials, all of the poll workers, all of the members of boards of election who actually counted the votes, who went to the polls and make sure that votes could be cast, and who ultimately stood firm for the integrity of that voting system. I want to thank the judges. There are now about 90 of them who, except for one or two who ruled the other way on a technicality, have stood firm for the integrity of that voting system.
3 months, boy.
In those 60 to 70 cases, except for that one, ruled on a technicality, they went with the integrity of our voting system and the rule of law. Today was indeed disgusting and sickening. It was shocking and despicable. It was heartbreaking. But it was not surprising. In fact, Today's assault on our democracy, the mob violence, the riots, the thugs and goons who were inspired and incited by the President of the United States, all were of a piece with these past 4 years of a president who has no respect for the truth or the rule of law. Donald Trump's presidency is coming to a close in the very same way it began, with an attack on our democracy. In 2016, the Trump campaign welcomed hostile foreign interference with our election, and the president refused to acknowledge that he would accept the results of the election if he lost. And then, again and again and again, he demonstrated his contempt for the rule of law and for
What an anniversary, relieved face.
the laws themselves. He obstructed justice, and he would have been charged with it had he not been the President of the United States. He invited a foreign government to interfere in our elections and find dirt on his political opponent. And most disturbingly, these actions by a president who demonstrated that contempt for the rule of law were met with silence from many political leaders, our colleagues here in the Senate among them. Silence in the face of that contempt for the rule of law and disrespect for the law enforcers.
More numbers are coming in. Originally, I thought it was 3, but now it's 4. I'm also trying to figure out what happened with my stream key, that it, like, randomly and very suspiciously forced me out, forced me to disconnect, and I was delivered an automatic new stream key. I don't know how that happened in the middle of a fucking stream. Very strange. But no, it wasn't fucking CIA. 4 people died in Capitol Hill today from complications, as they said.
And he was enabled. He had enablers.
It's not big media or anything like that. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's really fucking weird that, like, my stream key changed randomly in the middle of a fucking peak stream.
Enabling. But we must also make sure to stop it going forward. And the political stunt that brought us here today offers no great solace that it will. These stunts have consequences. We say words have consequences. And the actions today will have significant consequences.
Calling in the
They
National
are an
Guard,
attack on our
reluctant to call in
democracy
the National
that
Guard, because,
undermines.
of course, these are his people who he calls patriots. And even after witnessing the destruction that they wrought, and somebody being shot on Capitol Hill, he talked about them being great people and that he loved them.
And look how long it took for the National Guard to get there. This is a president who, in every other situation that we've seen play out with protests, with riots over the last year, the president has been eager, Anderson, to send in the National Guard. And he has criticized governors if they've refused to do so very publicly. Yet today, he was the one who was resistant to do so. Yeah. And, it's around 1:30 this afternoon, we started seeing people start to breach those barricades. And they were assaulting police officers, getting pepper sprayed. And despite that, still, it took a lot of effort to get the president to not only put out a statement saying that they should go home, because before he was saying remain peaceful, though nothing that we were watching was peaceful. And then he was resistant to the National Guard. That involved the vice president getting involved and the acting defense secretary, Chris Miller, getting involved to actually get the National Guard deployed out there. And it's because of how the president is viewing this pro-Trump mob that was fueled by his lies about the election going there. And he was, someone described it to me as he was borderline enthusiastic because they were going and they were disrupting this certification that we're still waiting on now. And that was the president's ultimate goal that he wanted today with the vice president, with his Republican allies, was he wanted a disruption. And of course, now we've gotten one that has completely shaken Washington, including several of his own staffers and allies on the Hill.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be frank. If it had been thousands of black people marching on the Capitol, if it had been thousands of Muslims marching on the Capitol, storming barricades, breaking into the Capitol, causing mayhem, the idea that the president would have just watched it all on TV is, I mean, absurd. I mean, the difference in the police response. Yeah.
What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, defended them, said he loved them, said they were special. You know, there was the last tweet that the president sent that has really freaked people out, where he was defending them, saying, this is what you get when you steal an election, basically, which, of course, this election wasn't stolen, but he was defending what we saw today. And that is just, you know, there are going to be a lot of people who criticize White House staffers and, you know, coming out at the 11th hour to now resign or, you know, voice their objections to the president, but seeing it today has actually unsettled people, and they are genuinely freaked out over the president's reaction to this and how he has responded to what the rest of us, you know, have witnessed.
Right, and frankly, what we witnessed long before this, when we saw armed thugs
what you gonna do when they come for you, bro?
State House, threatening elected leaders there.
It's the bad
boys.
boys.
The president gave him an attaboy. The president was cheering them on. Again, referring to them as great
considered
people, just
judgment.
as he did neo-Nazis, of course, in Charlottesville. So I understand, you know, there are a few people resigning, they say on principle, in the waning.
Yeah, bro, stand back and stand by after the Proud Boys.
Anyway,
no shit, this was gonna happen. I'm glad that fucking Anderson Cooper is like
new. This is not.
I'm glad that he has the processing power and the decency to be able to say like this is fucking bullshit. Despite the fact that the entire day CNN's coverage has been like wall to wall talking about how crazy it is that Melania Trump's chief of staff is like resigning 2 weeks before she's out of a job anyway. It's fucking nuts.
CNN political commentator Scott Jennings, former special assistant to George W. Bush, and CNN political analyst and investigative journalist Carl Bernstein. We're also going to have a panel on law enforcement because there's a lot of questions about. I mean, why were protesters?
Shut the fuck up! Is this true?
Insurrectionists, domestic terrorists, able to penetrate the Capitol like this? Why were there not preparations as there were for Black Lives Matter protesters?
Bro, they arrested 15 people and 2 of them are fucking Washington Post journalists. Are you insane?
Nice prime sub.
Are they fucking crazy, dude? What is the number now?
Help us, Hassan.
Dude, I swear to God, dude, this is the dumbest country. I mean, we have the dumbest process.
An argument he violated it this weekend when he called the Georgia Secretary of State as well, which
52
seems like a lifetime
2
ago.
of them are fucking WAPO journalists.
I don't know
so
the
that's
answer.
tight.
I know that there are things being discussed. I don't know what the right thing to do is. Tonight, he doesn't seem like, to me, based on the tweets that were removed, that he learned any lesson after this got out of hand today. This is what you get when you steal an election. He didn't learn anything when this happened today. And so if that's going to be his attitude for the next 2 weeks, I'm very fearful of what other insurrection type activities. And that's exactly what it was. It was an insurrection. And it should be labeled as such. I can't believe more people haven't been arrested for storming the Capitol of the United States. And I can't frankly believe there.
Yeah, 4 people died as Trump supporters occupied Capitol. 1 woman was shot by the police and 3 in medical emergencies. They're saying. So we don't know what happened to the other 3 people, but
happy to support you,
I don't know if it was like literally because they were like scaling walls or some shit. I don't know if it was like a heart attack. The Turks need to stop asking me if the PlayStation 5 prices are going to get lowered as a consequence of this. Literally throughout this entire day, we've had 200,000 people, 100,000 people. There's always like 30 to 40 Turkish people in Turkish. They keep saying, so what's up? Is the dollar going to get low now or what's the deal? Come on. What's my take out of this?
Hassle.
And I understand where you're coming from, brother, but that's not how it works. Okay? When you have a coup in Turkey, the dollar might change for you, but the value of the dollar doesn't change when America has its own fucking coup or internal problems. Certainly not going to change the price of the dollar.
Because there's recognition that the President of the United States is dangerously unstable. The Vice President apparently recognizes it.
Not changing the price of the PS5 either.
Look, for 3 weeks now, people around the President of the United States have been trying to talk him down, to restrain him. He has been acting, in one of those people's words, like a madman and a despot. That we are in a
121 Republicans.
dangerous situation with an out of control, unstable President of the United States. And there is now recognition in the cabinet, in the White House staff, on Capitol Hill among Republicans.
The Medicare for All bill has 118 co-sponsors.
Is a danger, not
121 Republicans in the House.
Of the United States, but really to all of our democratic institutions, and as well,
that's crazy.
He does have military abilities, and this began in some ways 3 weeks ago, maybe 4. There was a attempt by the president that he had to be talked down.
According to this YouGov data,
stared down by
that's a snap poll.
People at the Department
okay. So snap polls are not the most reliable. So this will change. But according to the snap poll on U.S. Capitol breach, 62% of voters see it as a threat to democracy. 71% oppose it. Although Republicans split, 66 say Trump is to blame. By 50 to 42 think it's appropriate to remove Trump from office immediately. But 6 out of 10 voters see the storming of the U.S. Capitol as a threat to democracy.
Hi.
32% do not see it as a threat. 68% of Republicans do not see storming the Capitol building as a threat to democracy, dude. What is this country, dude? Joe Biden can reach across not every aisle. Joe Biden can find every aisle in the country. He could be an island of his own, reaching across it over and over again. Okay? There is no uniting these sick fucking hogs, dude. There is no uniting the country. And that is deliberate, by the way. The only way to unite this country is by class positions, okay? And that's not going to happen anytime soon because Democrats and Republicans both do not want that to happen. And even that would take a fuckload of time. That's crazy, dude. That's fucking insane. Fox News, dude. Fox fucking News. One in five voters, including 45% of Republicans, support what is happening at the Capitol building. 45% of Republicans support. 21% of registered voters. 2% of Democrats. It's kind of weird. Where do they find that guy? 45% of Republicans support it. 43% of Republicans oppose it.
To 1 million follows. Pogu.
One of the hogs tased himself and had a heart attack. You hate to see it, dude. Someone else died today at the Capitol Hill. He tased himself and on accident and had a heart attack. That's a thought. That's a one thought and one prayer for me, boys. Okay? That's a one thought, one prayer, and one yike. I mean, listen, I feel bad for the victim of police brutality, despite the fact that she's a fucking QAnon supporter. But if you're tasing yourself, like, you know, it's kind of dumb, bro. Like, shit.
Hey, Hassan. There was a gamble about whether the yays will hit 99. The bet
Video, a day of chaos at the Capitol, my comprehensive report.
Pro-Trump protesters, their ranks likely augmented by far-lefters.
Wait, there's no way this is from... Oh my God. Sinclair reporter is saying that this is like far-right and leftist protesters? Bro, these people are fucking disgusting, dude. Hold on, I gotta see if there's the woman getting shot, if she's like... These freaks will post that shit sometimes.
Pro-Trump protesters, their ranks likely augmented by far-left infiltrators.
No! There is no such thing as like their ranks augmented by far-left infiltrators, dude. There's no, like, no! No, you can't lie like this, man! What the fuck are you saying?
Radical himbo Ajahn Pekka.
Oh my God! They're literally telegraphing like, I am a Trump supporter. I love being a Trump supporter. I am doing this crime because I love Donald Trump. And I'm doing it because of my love for Donald Trump, who said we should storm the building. Like, that's literally what they're doing. And Sinclair Broadcasting is still like, Well, actually, it seems like their ranks were augmented by the violent Antifa. See, there's a black one over there. Clearly, that's not a Trump supporter. He seems like one of those bad guys.
This shit
started clashing with Capitol Police before 2 p.m. Eastern. D.C. police said the rioters used chemical sprays against the officers to breach the historic building.
We've never seen this before.
Yeah, see, please point to me which one is the radical Antifa.
Now you're seeing that this
Is it that guy? Is it that guy? Is it that guy? That guy? That guy?
You see it.
It's all of them, brother. Radical Antifa, they wear Trump supporting hats that they got after fucking our wives, brother. Listen, stay woke. These fucking Antifa, they're out here after a day of polishing the boots of the police force. A wonderful thing I do for free, by the way. I come back home to see my wife having sex with someone who's Antifa. He runs out of the house hiding his wee-wee with my favorite Trump hat. That's how we got it, folks. I hear this all the time. Me and the boys built our own Facebook group called Radical Divorced Dads. And we talk about how our wives fucked radical Antifas and they stole our MAGA hats so they could storm the Capitol building.
Not to face the statues.
But the protesters did inflict some damage, roaming the hallowed halls seemingly at will, with even the office suite of Speaker Pelosi.
That must have been a radical Antifa activist, Marxist, Leninist revolutionary, I think. Fucking wish Antifa could organize like that, but they can't.
Pelosi compromised.
They broke the glass. Everybody stay down. Get down.
As terrified spectators watched from the House gallery, Capitol Police drew their firearms close to the House floor. On the Senate side, protesters ran wild on the floor. One young man brazenly occupied the same chair Vice President.
He must have been Antifa. Like, he literally looks like, look, he doesn't look all that white to me, folks. Brother, he doesn't look all that white to me. He might be Antifa. I think he's not all there. He must have been Antifa, brother. Seems like it.
Pence had an hour earlier.
He's wearing a mask. Everybody knows masks make you Antifa.
When he presided over the Republicans' truncated challenge to the certification of the Electoral College vote.
And it will stand in recess until
Lawmakers in both chambers were evacuated.
Get down under your chairs if necessary, so we have folks entering the rotunda.
In Wilmington, President-elect Biden called the violence at the Capitol a god-awful display, an assault on the rule of law, chaos unlike anything we've seen in modern times.
It borders on sedition. I call on President Trump to go on national television now to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution and demand an end to this siege.
Minutes later, at the White House, President Trump released a video that repeated his baseless claim the election was stolen from him before imploring his supporters to stay peaceful and, quote, go home.
We love you. You're very special, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace.
On social media, images surfaced showing that at least some of the protesters who breached the Capitol were previously photographed earlier this year, taking part in BLM and Antifa actions as far away as Arizona.
I mean, just make shit up. Like, it's fucking tight, dude. Literally, just pog. Just make shit up. This goes out to all your grandpappy and grandmammy's broadcast, by the way. Just fucking make shit up, dude.
Photographed earlier this year, taking
Antifa must have done this. Yeah, right, dude. If it was Antifa, you know the cops wouldn't be fucking hugging and kissing him like they did the entire way.
Part in BLM and Antifa actions as far away as Arizona, the very state whose electoral college votes were being.
I love this, like, this radical Antifa guy who is, you know, both incompetent, like can't hold a job, but also so competent that he can be in Arizona doing terrorist activity and then fly all around the country and do terrorist activity in D.C. as well. Yeah, they're all Antifa. You should arrest them. You should throw them in jail. Like, They're all radical Antifa. You should arrest every single person that went in Capitol Hill today. Throw them in jail. Let them rot. Those radical anti-fascist terrorists. You know? Fuck it, dude. Fuck it. Just throw them in jail, brother. Throw them under the jail, as a matter of fact. I hate Antifa. Those Antifa. Oh, no. You got to fucking really... You got to give it to them hard, dude. You got to beat the shit out of them, right?
Vosh bad.
I'm just saying. If they're Antifa, y'all better start acting like it. Yeah, I heard that, well, this is Daily Caller, so it doesn't fucking matter. Man, wild is if true. Wait, this is early. It's a terrible reporting on Twitter from fucking Daily Wire, of course. No, Antifa did not invade the Capitol today, despite what Trump's supporters say. One of them is Jake Angeli, also known as a QAnon shaman. Even with no facial recognition software, his Viking hat and face paint is easy to spot. Angeli's photos are everywhere. Wait.
Love you, man.
Wait, that's not a fucking Black Lives Matter supporter, though. Yeah, he was a fucking pro-Trump counter-protester, dude. Here's the uncropped image for you, Q sent me. That's Jake Angeli, by the way. And an actor in MAGA. Yeah, he literally has a QAnon. Dude, these people are such scumbags. Look at the way they cropped the photo. They cropped the photo to get the Q out of it, dude. Like, they are aware. They are literally aware of the fact that, like, their own freaks, their own sick fucking freaks are so easily identifiable that they cropped it out. You are such a scumbag. That is next level shit. That's when Nazis are self-aware enough to know that they're Nazis, so they will literally use, like, their Nazi-ness to infect you and make you look bad. Like when Richard Spencer was like, oh yeah, I'm voting for Joe Biden. Because, like, he knows he's a Nazi. Everyone else knows he's a fucking Nazi. So he's literally like, fuck it. Like, yeah, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. To try to, like, hurt him by word association. Like, that's the level that these sick freaks are at, where they know QAnon freaks are completely delusional, completely fucking lost the plot. And it's easily identifiable, so they crop out the fucking Q. It's just Twitter cropping? That's Twitter cropping? That's Twitter cropping?
Guess who's back again? Zen is back, wasn't banned.
Here's the uncropped image for you, Q sent me. That's Jake Angeli, by the way. He's an actor in MAGA from Phoenix. That's such suspicious Twitter cropping, dude. It's so weird. Yeah. So strange, dude. So fucking strange.
A cool dude. Thanks for being the audio to my visual doom scrolling.
Anyway, it's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. But that didn't stop Matt Gaetz from fucking following through with it. Yikes, dude. They're disgusting,
bleed purple,
dude.
Bleed purple, bleed purple.
Absolutely disgusting. This situation is so bad that trying to blame Antifa is their only option. They have to attempt to disown their own. Yeah. I just know that I would never be able to get away with this. Like, I literally know. Like Nicholas Fuentes, who's a fucking Nazi, and so is Baked Alaska. They can get away with it. They can literally live stream it. What? Nothing will happen to them. They're Nazis. Nothing will happen to them. If I did this shit, dude, oh my God. Every fucking Fox News, like, every CNN would call me out, banned from every platform. I guess they're already banned from every platform, too. They're just on D-Live at this point. But still. Muslim terrorist. Muslim socialist terrorist. Destroys government property, steals secrets. Is he sending it to Russia, which is, of course, the #1 communist nation? China, the #2 communist nation? Or is he sending it to Muslim Turkey? Where will he take the government secrets? Iran, probably. Most likely Iran.
But tonight, with the Capitol and a nation shaken to the core, members of Congress were undaunted, going back to business that was interrupted this afternoon, counting the Electoral College votes to declare Joe Biden the country's next president.
Casey Hunt walking us through just this remarkable day. It's almost hard to believe we experienced all that in one day, and it continues right now, as we've been showing you in the House and Senate. Members debating objections that have been laid down by some Republicans to the counting, the formal counting of the electoral votes. You'll note my partner, Savannah Guthrie, has taken her leave. You'll see her tomorrow morning on.
I don't care, dude. All right.
Both the president and vice president has played out, even in President Trump's rally recently on Monday in Georgia, when he said that he's a great guy, but he's going to like him a little bit less if he didn't get done what President Trump was asking him to do, which was not possible based on the structuring of the Constitution.
What?
And Trish Turner, I'm going to bring you back in to finish your thought. I'm sorry I interrupted. We were thinking that maybe there was about to be some action on the floor. Do we still have Trish?
Yeah, I'm here. So essentially what you're seeing here, so they'll get started right away with certifying the ballots. They'll pick right up where they left off. And we're really going to run through the Georgia objection. We don't expect senators to join in. But then we're going to get to Pennsylvania. And we do believe at Pennsylvania, Senator Josh Hawley, Republican from Missouri, he is going to join with House Republicans on that objection, which should trigger another withdrawal to the chambers for a debate and vote. We think that period of debate and vote is going to go very quickly. So we'll see how that goes. And that might be the only objection that a senator joins until the end of through the end of the evening. So that should be about it. It really is, they're on a glide path to certifying or to ratifying the Electoral College certification for Biden, and it's just a matter of how long it will take to get there. We're still some number of hours away, but we know that that's coming.
And again, just want to recite the words that we heard from Vice President Pence at the beginning of this evening's session when he said,
I think one of the funniest things about this entire process, though, has literally been the fact that, like, Donald Trump didn't lose once.
Thanks for everything you
like, despite all the fucking horrible things that have happened, Donald Trump didn't only lose once. Like, he lost over and over and over again. Like, if there's any solace in all of this commotion and all this pain and all this frustration with Republicans denying reality over and over again, with so many people feeling lost in the sauce, there is at least one funny thing, and that is that he took literally the most L's. Like, it's like he didn't lose just one time. Like, he could have just, like, lost one time, shut the fuck up, got over with it, lost gracefully, we would have forgotten about it. But he just lost over and over again, and so publicly. Copium is a hell of a drug where it can even tempt you to raid the Capitol. Yeah. Pretty awesome.
The joint session of Congress to count the electoral vote will resume. The tellers having taken their seats, the two houses retired to consider separately and decide upon the vote of the state of Arizona to which an objection has been filed. The Secretary of the Senate will report the action of the Senate.
In the Senate of the United States, ordered that the Senate, by a vote of 6 ayes to 93 nays, rejects the objection to the electoral votes cast in the state of Arizona for Joseph R. Biden for president and Kamala D. Harris for vice president.
The Clerk of the House will report the action of the House.
Ordered that the House of Representatives rejects the objections to the electoral vote of the state of Arizona.
Pursuant to the law, Chapter 1 of Title 3 of the United States Code, because the two houses have not sustained the objection, the original certificate submitted by the state of Arizona will be counted as provided therein. The tellers will now record and announce the vote of the state of Arkansas for president and vice president in accordance with the action of the two houses. This certificate from Arkansas, the parliamentarians advised me, is the only certificate of vote from the state that purports to be a return from the state, and that is annexed to it a certificate from an authority of the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Arkansas seems to be regular in form and authentic. And it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana received 6 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of
As literally a child, 2 children in an adult suit.
appears to be regular in form and authentic?
Hearing none.
Hearing none. This certificate from California, the parliamentarians advised me, is the only certificate of vote from the state that purports to be a return from the state.
How do you get in there?
That has annexed to it a certificate from an authority of
we got him, boys,
to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of California, I would say the great state of California, seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware received 55 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 55 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of the vote of the state of California that the teller has verified appears to be regular in form and authentic? Hearing none. This certificate from Colorado, the parliamentarians advised me, is the only certificate of vote from the state that purports to be a return from the state, and that has annexed to it a certificate from an authority of the state purporting to appoint and ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Colorado seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware received 9 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 9 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of the vote of the state of Colorado that the teller has verified appears to be regular in form and authentic? Hearing none. This certificate from Connecticut, the parliamentarians advised me, is the only certificate of vote from the state that purports to be a return from the state, and that has annexed to it a certificate from an authority of that state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Connecticut seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware
Bro, of course this shit's boring as fuck. What do you expect? What do you want him to dance around? In the beginning of this day, you watched Bedlam happen. It doesn't get any better than that. Like, there's not going to be like high stakes. It's Senate. It's boring procedures that you literally never ever in a million years would ever watch on camera.
Hearing none.
And that's what Donald Trump has created in America, like a sense of unease and unrest, so much so that you like literally have to see with your own two eyes that these old fucks are doing the right thing. Things that you would never think about. That's why in some instances direct democracy is boring as shit. Like you wouldn't be able to function as a society if the government couldn't just like do this boring paperwork shit on their own.
Received 3 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California.
Here, I'll make it more fun for you. I'll make it spicy.
A roll call of the 50 states as there is a ratification of the electoral certification. All seems to be going pretty smoothly at this point. There is a question about what will happen with Pennsylvania and Georgia, where we were expecting to have some objections in at least those 2 additional states, but as many of us learned today, secondary, tertiary to the news of the storming and breaching of the Capitol building, that Kelly Loeffler did lose her seat, and she no longer plans on objecting based on the breaching of the Capitol building today. So no word what will happen in Georgia, if there will be any objections. I want to bring back in Ben Siegel at this moment. And Ben, give us a sense. We heard earlier that there has been a lot of chatter on the Hill about potentially the invoking of the 25th Amendment. Is that really at all a possibility?
Lindsay, I think what you're hearing from Capitol Hill among Democrats today is exasperation and frustration that the president could incite something like we saw today and have essentially nothing happen to him except getting banned from Twitter for a couple hours. They want accountability for this. There's nothing like this has ever happened in the history of our country. They believe the president is responsible, and they think he should be removed from office. Now, there are 2 weeks left in his term. Impeaching him is pretty impractical, and as we saw last year, they don't have support among Republicans for him to actually convict President Trump and bar him from holding any future office. So there's been a lot of conversation around encouraging members of the administration, the vice president, to consider invoking the 25th Amendment. That would require, a majority of the cabinet and the vice president to make the determination to Congress that the president can no longer discharge his duties. And it's hard to believe that members of the president's cabinet, as privately disgusted as many of them might be with what happened today, will have the stomach to go on the record and say that this president should no longer serve, especially given how close we are to the inauguration and the president's term being over. And Republican Senator Mitt Romney was just asked about this, and he's really been the most aggressive critic of the president today. And he said impeachment is just not enough time on the calendar for that, and the 25th Amendment is also something that just does not work out with the timeline between now and January 20th. He just told reporters, I think we have to hold our breath for the next 20 days, and that might not be enough for Democrats on the Hill, but again, they would need the support of Republicans either on the Hill or in the administration.
We're going to listen now. There is an objection in Georgia.
Change the state's election process without approval from the General Assembly, and thereby setting the stage for an unprecedented amount of fraud and irregularities, and I have signed the objection myself.
Sections 15 and 17 of Title III of the United States Code require that any objection be presented in writing and signed by a member of the House of Representatives and a senator. Is the objection in writing and signed by a member and a senator?
Mr. President, prior to the actions and events of today, we did, but following the events of today, it appears that some senators have withdrawn their objection.
Get fucked, you fucking animal! Get fucked, you dog!
Have withdrawn their objection in the state of Georgia to what you just described as an unprecedented amount of fraud.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained.
Fucking QAnon,
Section 18 of Title III of the United States Code.
CrossFit ass, psychotic fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene, who probably got excited when all of her fucking best friends were storming the halls of Congress. She was probably like, oh fuck, where's my AR-15? Quick, I need to shoot some of these congresspersons.
Constitution following the letter of the law.
From an authority of that state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Hawaii seems to be regular in form and authentic. And it appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware.
And I do want to interrupt this roll call
again
to pass along some breaking news that we have. We are learning now that 4 people have died as a result of today's riots. We knew about a woman who died inside the U.S. Capitol, but police just announced a short time ago that an additional woman and 2 men have died after medical emergencies. Police also found 2 pipe bombs, one at the DNC and another at the RNC. So again, just to recap, not 1 death as we initially thought just a short time ago, but actually 4 deaths as a direct consequence of the actions today, the breaching
we got new footage
of the Capitol building by anarchists. And we're you in and listening to the roll call.
It appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 4 votes for president, and Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana received 4 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote from the state of Idaho that the teller has verified appear to be regular in form and authentic?
Hearing none.
Hearing none. This certificate from Illinois, the parliamentarians advised me, is the only certificate of vote from that state that purports to be returned from the state, and that is annexed to it.
Dude, anarchists love Donald Trump and his militarized police state.
Electors.
First of all, none of them are anarchists.
The certificate of the electoral vote.
Not a single one of them was trying to cancel me for a microaggression that I may or may not have said. Okay? They were fascist terrorists. They were not anarchists.
For president, and Kamala D. Harris.
They were maybe as crusty as anarchists, but
received 20 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of the vote of the state of Illinois that the teller has verified appears to be in regular form and authentic? Hearing none. This certificate from Indiana, the parliamentarians advised me, is the only certificate of vote from that state that purports to be returned from the state, and that has annexed to it a certificate from an authority of that state purporting to appoint and ascertain electors.
Oh, that's crazy that they're saying they're anarchists.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Indiana seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 11 votes for president, and Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana received 11 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of the vote of the state of Indiana that the teller has verified? Appears to be regular in form and authentic. Hearing none. This certificate from Iowa, the parliamentarians advise, is the only certificate of vote from the state that purports to be a return from the state, that has annexed to it a certificate from an authority of the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Iowa seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana received 6 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote of the state of Iowa that the teller has verified? Appears to be regular and authentic. Hearing none. This certificate from Kansas, the parliamentarians advised me, is the only certificate of vote from that state that purports to be returned from the state, and that has annexed to it a certificate of authority of the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Kansas seems to be regular in form and authentic. It appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6 votes for president, and Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana received 6 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote of the state of Kansas that the teller has verified appears to be regular in form and authentic? Hearing none. This certificate from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the parliamentarians advise me, is the only certificate of vote from that state that purports to be a return from the state, has annexed to it a certificate of authority of the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Kentucky seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 8 votes for president, and Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana received 8 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of the vote of the Commonwealth of Kentucky? That the teller is verified appears to be regular in form and authentic. Hearing none, this certificate from Louisiana, the parliamentarians advise me, is the only certificate of vote from that state. It purports to be returned from the state, has annexed to it a certificate of authority from the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Louisiana seems to be regular in form and authentic, and appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 8 votes for president, and Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana received 8 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of the vote of the state of Louisiana? That the teller is verified to be regular in form and authentic. Hearing none, this certificate from Maine, the parliamentarians advise, is the only certificate of vote from that state that purports to be returned from the state, that has annexed to it a certificate of authority from the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Maine seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware received 3 votes for president, and Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 1 vote for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 3 votes for vice president, and Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana received 1 vote for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote of the state of Maine that the teller is verified, appears to be regular in form and authentic? Hearing none, this certificate from Maryland, the parliamentarians advise me, is the only certificate of vote from that state, purports to be returned from the state, has annexed to it a certificate from an authority of the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of...
Bro, this shit is hella boring, dude. Literally. This is unironically one of the biggest problems, or my criticisms of like the direct democracy at every step, is that you would die. Like, we're just waiting for Pennsylvania for some spice right now, but like the rest of it is so fucking boring.
Appears to be regular in form and authentic. Hearing none, this certificate from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the parliamentarians advise, is the only certificate of vote from that state, purports to be a return from the state, and has annexed to it a certificate from an authority of the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
President Trump telling people today that he was happy Loeffler and Purdue lost. According to a person familiar with the conversations, he said they didn't defend him enough. Hell yeah.
That Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware received 11 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 11 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts? The tellers advised appear to be regular in form and authentic. Hearing none, this certificate from Michigan, the parliamentarians advise, is the only certificate of vote in that state that purports to be a return from the state and has annexed to it a certificate of authority of the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Michigan seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware received 16 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 16 votes for vice president.
For what reason does the gentlelady from Georgia rise?
Mr. President, I, along with 70 of my Republican colleagues, object to the counting of the electoral votes for the state of Michigan on the grounds that the error rate precedes the FEC rate allowed at 0.0008%, and that the people who signed affidavits at risk of perjury, their voices have not been heard in a court of law.
Section 15 and 17 of Title III of the U.S. Code require that any objection be presented in writing and signed by a member of the House of Representatives and a senator. Is the objection in writing and signed by a member and a senator?
The objection is writing, not signed by a senator.
Oh!
In that case, the
I'm
objection
afraid you
cannot
should
be
shut the fuck up then! How about you exercise shutting the fuck up? You
Are there any further
stupid
objections to counting the
donkey!
certificate of the vote from the state of Michigan?
And again, another state, the state of Michigan, where we did see an objection that was raised, but Vice President Pence quickly asking if it had been signed by a senator, a hearing that it has not. He said then that objection cannot be entertained, and the roll call continues, moving on to another state.
To its certificate of authority from the state purporting to appoint and ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Minnesota seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware received 10 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 10 votes.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of the vote of the state of Minnesota that the teller has verified appears to be regular in form and authentic?
You must be
Hearing
this
none.
tall.
This certificate from
You
Mississippi
must be this tall to get on this ride, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Turns out your 4-foot fucking zero ass can't get on the ride. Fuck you!
Don't forget
and ascertain electors.
Go find another senator so you can stand on top of their shoulders.
The state of Mississippi seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 6
You are
votes
not
for
a short
president,
queen.
and Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana received 6 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote from the state of Mississippi that the teller has verified appears to be regular in form and authentic? Hearing none. This certificate from Missouri, the parliamentarians advise, is the only certificate of vote from the state that purports to be a return from the state, that has annexed to it a certificate from an authority of the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Missouri seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 10 votes for president, and Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana received 10 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of the vote of the state of Missouri that the teller has verified appears to be regular and authentic? Hearing none. This certificate from Montana, the parliamentarians advise, is the only certificate of vote from that state.
Marjorie should embarrass herself further. Yo, keep objecting, Marjorie. You sick fuck.
Mr. President,
This is actually more entertaining that way.
The state of Montana seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J.
Here's
Trump
an
of the state of
objection I
Florida
have.
received 3 votes for president.
Top of the hour,
and Michael
baby.
R. Pence of the state of Indiana received 3 votes
Just
for
like
vice
every
president.
hour, you already know what time it is.
To counting the certificate of the vote of the state of Montana that the teller verified appears to be regular in form and authentic. Hearing
Teller's
none.
about to verify that the fucking top of the hour is here, which means it's time for a 6-second ad break. What does the teller say that you can do to no longer see the ads? Oh, the teller says you can subscribe with your fucking Twitch Primes for free or for $5. Here's the fair and authentic 1-minute ad, ladies and gentlemen.
And it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received
Yes,
4
I
votes
silenced
for president.
Montana voters because here's what I think about Montana. Nothing. I don't think about Montana ever. I don't even understand why it's a state. Okay, there, I said it. Same with Wyoming. Wyoming get cash these hands too.
And Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 1 vote for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote from the state of Nebraska that the teller's verified as regular in form and authentic? Hearing none. This certificate from Nevada, the parliamentarian advises, is the only certificate of vote from the state that purports to be a return from the state, and that has annexed to it a certificate of authority from the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Nevada seems to be regular, in form, and authentic. And it appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware received 6 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris
Come on,
of the
let's make
state of
this
California
spicy, dude. Hit me with
received
some.
6
Hit me with
votes
something good.
for vice president.
For what reason does the gentleman from Alabama rise?
Mr. President, I and 55 other members of the United States House of Representatives object to the electoral votes of the state of Nevada in order to protect the lawful votes of Nevada and all other American citizens.
Section 15 and 17 of Title III of the United States Code requires that
in the
any
state of
objection be
Nevada.
presented in writing and signed by a member of the
And
House
we'll
of
hear if this
Representatives
is
and a
entertained at
senator.
all, if there's a
Is the
signature
objection
by
in
the
writing
senator
and
or not.
signed by a member and a senator?
Mr. President, it is in writing, but unfortunately, no United States senator has joined in this effort.
This is actually the House, no signature.
I'm
again, and so
afraid
Vice President Pence
all 55 of you motherfuckers need to sit down then. Yikes, dude. Fuck, that sucks, dude. Shit, buddy. Try again next time, dude.
We're now going to hand it over to our friends at Nightline for continuing coverage of this unprecedented past 24 hours.
Get fucked.
This certificate from New Hampshire.
I can't believe this.
Inspired by a president unwilling to
Oh my God, they
concede.
just hit us with the top of the hour, every hour, 6-second ad break. Oh my God. We just literally got rolled by fucking CNBC or whatever we were watching.
Section 15 and 17 of Title III of the United States Code requires that any objection be presented in writing and signed by a member of the House of Representatives and a senator. Is the objection in writing and signed by a member and a senator? This certificate from New Hampshire, the parliamentarians advise me, is the only certificate of vote from that state that purports to be a return from the state, has annexed to it a certificate of authority of the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New Hampshire seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware received 4 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 4 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote of the state of New Hampshire? That the teller is verified appears to be regular in form and authentic. This certificate from New Jersey, the parliamentarians advise, is the only certificate of vote from the state that purports to be a return from the state.
I'm
Has
walking
annexed to it
here.
a certificate of
I'm
authority. of the
fucking
state
voting for the next
purporting to
president
appoint
over
and
here.
ascertain
Hey, does anybody object? Hey, is the last
President,
gobble
the
you
certificate
gold
of the
over here.
electoral vote of the state of New Jersey
Sorry,
seems to be
I don't know what
regular
happened.
in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware received 14 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 14 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote of the state of New Jersey? Teller's verified appears to be regular in form and authentic.
Wow, not a single person. This is bullshit.
This certificate from New Mexico, the parliamentarians advise, is the only certificate of vote from the state. It purports to be a return from the state, and that has annexed to it a certificate of authority of the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New Mexico seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware received 5 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 5 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate?
Do you guys remember before George Floyd happened, Amy Klobuchar was the top slot for vice president? And then literally,
Hearing none,
the state in which she was a prosecutor, the city
the parliamentarians advise me
that she literally oversaw, ended up having an instance of police brutality that shocked the entire world. I remember.
And ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of New York seems to be regular in form and authentic.
Fun
And it
fact.
appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware received 29 votes for president.
How many staffers do you think she fucking killed with a stapler after that one?
29 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote?
Like, she buried the bodies, you know what I'm saying?
Verified appears to be regular in form and authentic. Hearing none, this certificate from North Carolina, the parliamentarians advise me, is the only certificate of vote from that state that purports to be a return from the state, has annexed to it a certificate from the state purporting to appoint and ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of North Carolina seems to be regular in form and authentic.
Remember when people said I was
And it appears
sexist for
therefrom
pointing
that
that
Donald
out?
J. Trump of the state of Florida received 15 votes for president, and Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana received 15 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote of the state of North Carolina? That the teller is verified appears to be regular in form and authentic.
I've seen her campaign
This
ads.
certificate
She's a
from
very
North Dakota,
kind
the
woman.
parliamentarians
Absolutely
advise me is the
disgusting
only certificate of vote
sexism.
from the state that
Oh,
purports
okay,
to
you've
be a
been
return from
subscriber.
the state.
Okay, you've been subscribed for 3 months. You know that's fucking. That's how I know that's a meme, dude. First, I was like, listen, we got some liberals here. I don't know. That might be a legitimate fucking take. You know what I'm saying?
The state of Indiana received 3 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote from the state of North Dakota? That the teller is verified
Lütfen anama
as
küfür et.
regular and authentic.
Ananı sikeyim. En büyük hayalim. Siktim ananı hadi. Oldu mu?
Hearing none, this
Manyak.
certificate from Ohio, the parliamentarians advise is the only certificate of vote from the state that purports to be a return from the state, has annexed to it a certificate of authority of the state purporting to appoint or ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of
Hasanabi
the
en büyük
electoral vote
hayranım,
of the state
hayalim
of
anamı sikmen
Ohio
dedi.
seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida received 18 votes for president, and Michael R. Pence of the state of Indiana received 18 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote from the state of Ohio that the teller has verified as regular in form and authentic? Hearing none, this certificate from Oklahoma,
It's so funny these fucking idiots, like these hogs, including Donald Trump, or rather led by Donald Trump, thought that this was the process that they were going to disrupt
Mr. President,
and like
the certificate
somehow
of the electoral
overturn the
vote of the
results
state of
of,
Oklahoma
as though
seems to be regular
this
in
part
form
of the
and authentic.
process is the
appears
real
therefrom
process that like
Donald J.
solidifies who
Trump of the
becomes
state of
president,
Florida
and not the
received 7
fucking
votes for
election that
president,
already took
and
place
Michael R. Pence
and the
of the state of
certifications that
Indiana
already happened. Like,
received
they
7
can do
votes
this in the
for
dead of the night. It's boring as fuck. You've never seen it happen for good reason, because it's just boring. It's just process. It's just something that you do. But like in the minds of these fucking hogs, they were like, we're gonna storm the Capitol building, brother. Like, they thought that they could like stop this from happening or some shit, as though that would like overturn the results. They're so stupid. It's literally just a formality, dude.
Seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware received 7 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 7 votes for vice president.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote of the state of Oregon that the teller has verified as regular in form and authentic? Hearing none.
Oh my God.
This certificate from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the
That'd be so
parliamentarians
sick.
advise, is the only certificate of vote from the state that purports to be a return of the state, has annexed to it a certificate from an authority in the state purporting to appoint and ascertain electors.
Mr. President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware received 20 votes for president, and Kamala D. Harris of the state of California received 20 votes for vice president.
For what reason does the gentleman from Pennsylvania rise?
Mr. President, sadly but resolutely, I object to the electoral votes of my beloved Commonwealth of Pennsylvania on the grounds of multiple constitutional infractions that they were not, under all of the known circumstances, regularly given. And on this occasion, I have a written objection signed by a senator and 80 members of the House of Representatives.
Is the objection in writing and signed by a senator?
Yes, Mr. President, it is.
An objection presented in writing and signed by both a representative and a senator complies with the law. Chapter 1, Title 3 of the United States Code. The clerk will report the objection.
We, a United States Senator and members of the House of Representatives, object to the counting of the electoral votes of the state of Pennsylvania on the ground that they were not, under all of the known circumstances, regularly given. Signed, Josh Hawley, United States Senator, Scott Perry, Member of Congress.
Are there further objections to the certificates from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? The chair hears none. The two houses will withdraw from joint session. Each house will deliberate separately on the pending objection and report its decision back to the joint session. The Senate will now retire to its chamber.
Oh no! It's literally a procedural waste of time. Hog. Thanks, Cash App. For the free ad. Sponsored, baby. Just kidding. It's so for those of you who are wondering what the fuck happened, so this is what was gonna happen earlier today. And actually, if the fucking brainlet hogs didn't storm the halls of Congress, this actually would have been a longer, more complicated process. But once they did breach the halls, everyone was like, all right, we can't fucking even do the aesthetic things anymore. And like they had to withdraw. Like in Georgia, for example, I think it was Kelly Loeffler who literally withdrew her objection, right? I don't even know if she had the opportunity to be able to object because anyway, regardless. Yeah, she withdrew because of the events that took place. And so did what's his face, the one that is like technically objecting, Josh Hawley, the one who's objecting to the Pennsylvania one. Is I think he's not even going to do anything. Like he's not going to really like deliberate on it. So it's basically just a symbolic hurdle that they've placed in front of the final tally or the final authentication of every vote. So it's nothing but theater. It was nothing but theater earlier this morning as well. Guys, I just got to remind you of this. Yeah, I got to remind you of this thing, but like, it doesn't work that way. Like, you can't. I know it sometimes feels like it works that way, and American politics is so fucking weird and convoluted and boring and sometimes complicated that you think, like, oh no, like, will the election results be overturned? Like, and I myself have said before that, like, I won't rest easy until Joseph Robinette Biden or his corpse, doesn't really matter, is sworn into office, and I don't give a fuck what happens to him. He could die after that for all I care. I literally don't give a shit. But at this stage, it's like, it's a wrap. Okay? I mean, it's literally a wrap. Like, there is no one senator objects, and then all of a sudden we're overturning like 85 million votes. You know what I mean? That would be fucking psychotic. That would be completely insane. There is no like, oops, time to do a do-over. Like, one senator objected. Like, that's not happening. Yes. Weekend at Biden's. Yes, exactly. They're going to attack. I hope they don't do this shit during the inauguration, we don't have the people to handle it, says the Capitol police officer. We were just not prepared. They got their 4 levels of our security, Capitol officer to me just now. Yeah, get the fuck out of here, dude. You were just not prepared. Yeah, again, I mean, the Hannah Montana joke steals the day from that Woomixon. But, like, the reason why they didn't have enough people is because, you know, their ranks... I mean, there it is, actually. Look at that. Oh, there's more of them. All of it. Anyway, the reason why they didn't have enough people in their ranks was because they were too busy blowing through the barricades themselves.
Cannot do that if we ever want to get to a better place. You know, you and I shared an interesting thought today that was very different than what was being done, even by our brothers and sisters in the media. When this started to happen,
I love Cuomo, dude.
Came out and they busted and did that bums rush into the Capitol. Were you surprised?
No, not at all. I have to be very careful at what I say tonight because I'm not surprised, I'm not shocked, but I am angry about what happened today. And all Americans should be angry about what happened today. And all Americans should be angry about the whataboutism. And all Americans should be angry about the differences in the way Black Lives Matter protesters were treated, gassed in the Capitol because the president wanted to carry a Bible and do a public event for a show, to make a video. And then today, you have people who hopped up on lies and propaganda, took over the nation's capital, not stopped by police. Everyone is saying, what was the failure in police? What happened? There was no failure. If you look at the video, those people are being ushered in by some of the people who are
So you don't think it was simply about not being prepared?
No, I don't think it was about not. How can you not be prepared when you are in control?
Come on, bro.
Of protecting.
He's black. He knows what's going on. What do you mean, dude? Like, of course. What do you mean? Dude, did we not go through fucking literally BLM protests this entire summer? We know what it looks like when they're fucking prepared, dude.
One has to think that these people are somehow believing what these folks are saying, or are at least some way have been co-opted by them or a part of it. Because these folks are going and saying, this is our capital. This belongs to us. They work for us. Therefore, they feel entitled to be able to subvert justice, to go into the nation's capital, to stand at podiums and lectures.
Sorry, I forgot. Cuomo was also a person of color.
Officials, presidents,
Italian
and
rights,
and
baby.
congressmen of the United States.
Italian rights, baby.
We are supposed to respect the country. We're supposed to respect the Capitol. And by the way, you and I were talking about the fringe right media, and state-run media over at Fox News. I consider them because they have been on the fringe.
This is a Norman audience that we have today, but
talking about today,
I'm doing all my regular
I can't
memes.
believe how beautiful the cap. This became about the Capitol physically, the beauty of the Capitol being somehow desecrated. What about the democracy? What about the republic? And stop comparing it to Black Lives Matter protesters, because Black Lives Matter protesters were there for a real issue.
True.
Police brutality, criminal justice reform, the way people of color are treated in this country. People of color who did what those people did today at the Capitol, it would not have been, come on in, let's take a selfie, let me help you, escort you down the stairs. That would have been tear gas, get on the ground, knees on the neck. That's what the Black Lives Matter protesters were about. Yes, there were rioters who were out of control with Black Lives Matter. The same thing happened with today. So today, the folks who are at state-run media and who are saying, well, not all the people were out there for doing bad things. The majority of those people were protesters and they were peaceful. That is the same argument that Black Lives Matter had been making about people. Not all of them were Antifa.
However, and look, why is this important? Two reasons. One, because this was supposed to be a seminal moment today. This moment was so ugly, so obvious, that it should have been an end for us. It should have been.
You know it's fucking weird when he turns to the camera instead of facing Don Lemon.
Just another step in a process. And
you know what I mean?
We're gonna have to talk about. Is today going to be an end, or is it going to be a beginning of an ugly period? Now,
he's so handsome, though.
It delayed our democracy at a minimum, and that's why they went there. And that is a fundamental difference, all right? Any violence is not protest.
I'm joking. I know his last name is Lemon.
We say this all the time.
Okay.
The reason we have to keep saying it is because There are people in this society who want to weaponize differences. And they immediately came out today and mitigated the significance of what happened today. Oh, well, you were okay with it when it was BLM. Nobody was okay with it.
I hung out with Don Lemon
to
once.
Suggest that showed that we were not past
At the White House Correspondents' Dinner Playboy Party.
A delay, because what we're doing right now, the reason we have a chance to recap here, and for Don to give his thoughts, is because right now, they've been delayed again. This is supposed to be the day where Congress certifies the electoral votes from all the different states, okay? It is not a forum for adjudication of claims. It's not a court. It's not a commission. It is not a fact-finding body.
But that's what's happening.
It is about
so
certification.
dumb.
It is being bastardized for that use.
Why are you
by
modding that, dude?
And in the form of legal geniuses. This Senator Hall and
the
Senator
dumbest
Cruz, they were
audience, I
Supreme
swear to
Court
God.
clerks. They know what they're talking about. Right now, they're in chamber getting ready to debate.
They don't know what they're talking about now. They don't.
Well, but hold on. I just want to give them the sense of where we are in the process.
Yeah,
they're going to be in chamber, and they're going to be debating up to 2 hours. The only other objection that we expect, there were going to be a number, as many as 6. After the insurrection today, some senators got cold feet and said, you know what, maybe this is a bad move, fomenting fraud that is a farce. But Hawley did not. Cruz did not. So now Pennsylvania is up for debate up to 2 hours. When they start debating it, the House and the Senate went to separate chambers to do their debate. We'll bring you the debates from the floor.
Yeah,
Please.
it may be 2 hours. And Josh Hawley has said
They have up to 2 hours.
He's going to cede his time, so he's not going to speak, and he's going to allow. So it could be short. It's going to allow many senators to leave the Capitol while the House debates, possibly for 2 hours, and then they're going to vote on this Pennsylvania objection. But again, this is where we are now. We're watching. We would not have what happened today not happen. We wouldn't be sitting here at 12:25 in the morning, probably.
Who, us?
With the vote. We would not be sitting here saying, well, Pennsylvania is being debated right now. That would have happened earlier.
Yes.
They lost time.
Would have been over.
Because of this. This would have been over.
Yeah.
All of this is pro forma, what's happening right now. All of this is theater with what's happening right now.
True.
And the reason, everyone says, get back to
I mean, we would be.
The reason that we're here in this moment is because of people like Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, who have been lying to the American people. And now trying to compare apples and oranges when it comes to protesters versus rioters in this country. That's the moment that we're in right now. It's all the same moment. We're all in the same moment. This is what happens when you ignore the will of the people, whether you're a Republican and you believe that falsely believe that this election was stolen, or whether you are a Democrat or someone who believes in criminal justice and you believe that people of color should be treated equally. This is where we are in this country right now, and it has all culminated in a moment that has come together, and now people are trying to say, people are wanting to take away a free and fair election, the right of the people.
That's what they were there to do today.
It
wasn't just
the
outrage.
same thing.
It wasn't an
Because-
overflowed protest.
Hang on,
They had a point.
Just give me some leeway here. Because of a president.
Shut up, Chris.
Who uses fear.
I know you think you're
anger
POC.
as weapons. Who pits people against each other. And the people who are in Congress, like Hawley and Cruz, are using it this moment right now to prop themselves up for political gain. That's why we're in this moment right now. So it all comes together. It's not just what's happening on the Senate floor. It's not just what's happening in Congress. It's what's happening in everyday people's lives in this country. That's where we are.
Absolutely. And many people, even in the media, good journalists, were saying this is surreal. This is unimaginable.
It's not.
We can't. This is reality. This is where we are in this country. I'm not saying everybody's this way, but this is the mood. This is our political culture. This is where we are. And by the way, there was bloodshed today. All right. 4 people died. Most notably, you're going to hear about a woman who was shot and killed during the insurrection when she had broken into the Capitol with others. It happened as they were literally rioting and trying to break down a door. There is dramatic video to show you of the moments leading up to that deadly confrontation. Why show that? Why not show it? None of us should take just an ounce or a scintilla of any type of satisfaction in hearing that somebody got hurt, even though they were doing something wrong. Our democracy should have never come to this. And you need to own.
You know, some of these games are fucking crazy. You really got fucking Hossbuff gamers in the chat saying you could be playing Rust right now, today of all days. I mean, they're right.
Distressing for you.
Oh, is this the fucking crazy angle?
Oh, no, we're going to hold on it. Senator McConnell is saying something. Listen.
Res 1 and Section 17 of Title 3, the United States Code. When the two houses withdraw from the joint session to count the electoral vote for separate consideration of an objection, a senator may speak to the objection for 5 minutes, not more than once. Debate shall not exceed 2 hours, after which the chair will put the question, shall the objection be sustained? The clerk will report the objection made in the joint session.
Objection from Senator Hawley from Missouri and Representative Perry from Pennsylvania. We, a United States Senator and member of the House of Representatives, object to the counting of the electoral votes on the state of Pennsylvania on the ground that they were not, under all of the known circumstances, regularly given.
Dude, don't old people die if they stay up past a certain point? They're really risking their lives out here, dude. Josh Hawley is just trying to eliminate some of his fucking colleagues up in here.
If there's no further debate.
That was it?
If there's no further debate, the question shall be, shall the objection submitted by the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Perry, the senator from Missouri, Mr. Hawley, be sustained? Is there a sufficient second? There is. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin. Ms. Baldwin, no. Mr. Barrasso. Mr. Barrasso, no. Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett, no. Mrs. Blackburn. Mrs. Blackburn, no. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Blunt. Mr. Blunt, no. Mr. Booker.
No.
Mr. Booker, no.
Okay, dude, this is so stupid.
No. Mr. Braun. Mr. Braun, no. Mr. Brown.
This is literally like when I did my ride-along for my politics of criminal justice class and found out that like a big chunk of police work revolves around writing paperwork after you're done harassing random individuals on the streets. Like, this is literally when you find out how the sausage is made, and it's so boring. And that's why they're like literally 87 years old.
No. Mr. Casey. Mr. Casey.
Like most of this shit is just like pure procedure, insanely boring.
No. Mr. Coons.
And impossible to fucking keep up with unless you are literally 90 years old and basically decaying on that seat and you got nothing else going on.
No. Mr. Cotton. Mr. Cotton, no. Mr. Kramer. Mr. Kramer, no. Mr. Crapo.
Crapo!
Crapo, no. Mr. Cruz.
One of the dumbest
Mr. Cruz.
last names in all of Congress.
Mr. Daines, no. Ms. Duckworth. Ms. Duckworth, no. Mr. Durbin. Mr. Durbin, no. Ms. Ernst.
No.
Ms. Ernst, no. Mrs. Feinstein. Mrs. Feinstein, no. Mrs.
Speaking of
Fisher.
literal 97-year-olds.
Fisher, no.
Dianne Feinstein.
Mr. Graham. Mr. Graham, no. Mr. Grassley. Mr. Grassley, no. Mr. Haggerty.
Oh, I wanted to watch this video.
Mr.
It's
Haggerty,
crazy.
No.
Don't worry, we're
Ms.
going to watch
Harris.
this shit.
Ms. Hassan. Ms. Hassan, no. Mr. Hawley. Mr. Hawley, aye. Mr. Heinrich. Mr. Heinrich, no. Mr. Hickenlooper. Mr. Hickenlooper, no. Ms.
Thank you, I'm
Hirono.
Tiny Rick.
Mr. Hoven. Mr. Hoven.
Gotten a little bit more
no.
normal so I can call out gift
Mrs.
subs now at
Hyde-Smith.
least at 100K.
Mrs. Hyde-Smith, aye. Mr. Inhofe. Mr. Inhofe, no. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, no. Mr. Kane. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, no. Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, No. Mr. King? Mr. King? No. Ms. Klobuchar? Ms. Klobuchar? No. Mr. Langford?
At least it's not poop sock.
Mr. Langford?
At least
no.
it's like something
Mr.
fucking
Leahy?
fun and cute to look at. You know what I mean?
Mr. Leahy? No. Mr. Lee? Mr. Lee? No. Mrs. Leffler? Mrs. Leffler? No. Mr. Lujan?
Wow.
Mr. Lujan?
Thank you, P-Blows, for the 2021 gift subs.
Ms. Lummis? Ms. Lummis? Aye. Mr. Manchin? Mr. Manchin? No. Mr. Markey? Mr. Markey? No.
No. We're gonna watch this shit. This shit's crazy. It's actually
Mr. Marshall.
really crazy.
Mr. Marshall? Aye. Mr. McConnell? Mr. McConnell? No. Mr. Menendez? Mr. Merkley? Mr. Merkley? No. Mr. Moran? Mr. Moran? No. Ms. Murkowski? Ms. Murkowski? No. Mr. Murphy?
Bro, today was so fucking long. I forgot that an Illinois congressperson literally said Hitler was right when he said we must secure the youth. That's how long today's been, bro. We started off today, and at 10 a.m., there was some psychopath on a Moms for America podium literally saying, like, Hitler was right. Yeah, people are like, what? That's crazy. That is literally something that happened. Congressman-elect from Illinois literally said that. Said Hitler was right, dude. That's how today started.
Rubio? Mr. Rubio? No. Mr. Sanders? Mr. Sass? Mr. Sass? No. Mr. Schatz? Mr. Schatz? No. Mr. Schumer? Mr. Schumer? No. Mr. Scott of Florida? Mr. Scott of Florida? Aye. Mr. Scott of South Carolina? Mr. Scott of South Carolina? No. Mrs. Shaheen? Mrs. Shaheen? No. Mr. Shelby? Mr. Shelby? No. Ms. Sinema? Ms. Sinema? No. Ms. Smith?
No, she said Hitler was right about one thing.
No.
Yeah.
Ms. Stabenow? Ms. Stabenow? No. Mr. Sullivan? Mr. Sullivan?
Oh, today's also the new
No.
record.
Mr.
I
Chester?
forgot to mention that. The United States has set a new daily
Mr.
record for coronavirus
Chester?
cases and
No.
coronavirus deaths on
Mr.
Wednesday.
Thune? Mr. Thune? No. Mr. Tillis? Mr. Tillis? No. Mr. Toomey? Mr.
Number one,
Toomey?
baby.
No. Mr. Tuberville? Mr. Tuberville? Aye. Mr. Van Hollen?
Of course, Tuberville said
Mr.
aye.
Van Hollen? No. Mr. Warner? Mr. Warner? No. Ms. Warren? Ms. Warren? No. Mr. Whitehouse? Mr. Whitehouse? No. Mr. Wicker? Mr. Wicker? No. Mr. Wyden? Mr. Wyden? No. Mr. Young? Mr. Young? No. Ms. Harris?
I love
Ms.
Mr.
Harris?
Whitehouse. Great name.
No. Mrs. Gillibrand? Mrs. Gillibrand? No. Mr. Blumenthal? Mr. Blumenthal? No. Ms. Hirono? Ms. Hirono? No. Mr. Portman? Mr. Portman? No. Mr. Cassidy? Mr. Cassidy? No. Mr. Menendez? Mr. Menendez?
So dumb.
No.
Okay. Watch this shit. This is how they broke. This is how they broke in. 13 people arrested, by the way. Saturday night. Pog. These are the shittiest cops. I mean, hello, of course. All right.
So here we go. They're just waiting to announce right now, Chris.
So
They
what's
voted.
happening now is the parliamentarians, the people who sit in front of Mike Pence, if you're looking at the screen right now, you have two sets of dais, right? So you have the people who are on that top level. Those are the Senate parliamentarians, all right, those two rows. And they're pretty much the only ones who know the rules. So now they're finishing the vote, and then Mike Pence will record the vote. Now, what has been remarkable here so far...
They're still on Sanders. I'm hearing Sanders.
Yeah, they're still going through the roll call. Sanders is obviously Bernie Sanders. Is that they have more aye or yes votes on this than we anticipated. So far, we've heard 7. Now, you have to remember where we are with this, okay? This is not a place to adjudicate claims by law. It is to certify what states have already adjudicated. So we're going to listen to the vice president now read off the vote and then discuss the gravity of this moment.
On this vote, the yeas are 7, the nays are 92. The objection is not sustained. The Secretary will notify the House of the action of the Senate, informing that body that the Senate is now ready to proceed to joint session with further counting of the electoral vote for President and Vice President. Majority Leader.
Mr. President,
what will happen is
of all of our colleagues who don't expect additional
I would just want to hear what McConnell says.
So, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that
It's
upon
so
the
funny
dissolution
that
of the
their
joint
live
session,
streaming setup is
the Senate
like
stand
mine.
adjourned to then convene
But they're
for
just
pro
in a
forma
studio.
sessions only, with no business being conducted on the following dates and times.
Basically, that's
and that
basically it's all
following
but
each
a
pro
done.
forma
Right, and it's so interesting in terms of why people get turned off by government. One little step sideways that just informs our culture.
Yeah.
We're going to come back tomorrow for pro forma sessions where no business is conducted.
Right.
Only in government do you have a meeting to do nothing. Now, what that means is they will not get your business done tonight. The vice president had said in kind of a strong statement of retaliation to the terrorism today. I mean, look, that's what it was. It's not just violence. It was politically directed. They wanted to undo this process. It was an insurrection. They wanted to take over the Capitol. They wanted this not to happen. This is a unique level of animus for us. Now, what happened with this vote, 93-7, means that 7 senators, all Republicans, decided that even though this is not a tribunal for the adjudication of what happened in a state, they were going to say it was anyway. That even though the state of Pennsylvania that this was on has been adjudicated at so many levels, Senator Hawley from Missouri said something that he knows isn't true. And the man was a Supreme Court clerk.
Yeah. Well, you said that he and Ted Cruz know because they're apparently these.
They are very sophisticated,
they're sophisticated
legal minds.
They're sophisticated in fooling their constituents and the American people that they are actually doing their business. That's not what they're doing. But I think it's important to call out everyone who voted yes on this. And as we call it, I wish we had a wall because we call it a wall of shame.
There's 7 of them.
Ted Cruz, Texas. Josh Hawley of Missouri, not even obviously none of Pennsylvania. Cindy Hyde-Smith of Mississippi. Cynthia Loomis of Wyoming. And then you have Roger Marshall of, Roger Marshall of Kansas. Roger Marshall of Kansas, Rick Scott of Florida, Tommy Tuberville of Alabama. Those are the yes. And here's the interesting thing. Kelly Loeffler, who just lost her bid as an incumbent senator last night, had said yesterday, on the day of voting, I am going to vote yes or no, right? Not to certify these things. She decided today, after what happened at the Capitol, that she was going to vote to certify. I'm not sure if she found religion. I'm not sure what her reasoning was, but it's interesting that she said...
Bro, it's because she was always a bored housewife who literally wanted a fucking seat for funsies.
As well. That doesn't mean he's absolved of any sin.
She's literally a billionaire, dude.
But he did
they have
say
to go back to New York.
Well, look.
And
again,
live with liberals and
there's
shit.
a lot going on in this moment, but it all leads us to the same
Fuck you mean, bro? She was just trying to win a
we
seat.
are at a bottom here. I've never seen it this bad. And we often say we're living history. We often say a lot of things because we want you to be able to seize on the meaning of a moment. And when you kept being told that this president was saying things that was dangerous, I know it got monotonous and it started to seem hyperbolic. And then you had a group of people today, solely at his discretion and in his name, break in to the United States Capitol, overtake the session to count the electoral votes to decide who our next president and vice president is. Okay? That's not a protest turned into a riot. That's not beating up buildings. It's not criminality. All those things are wrong, but they are not this. And the immediate response by the Retrumplicans and by the supporters and the space around him was to mitigate it immediately. So our hope was, hopefully this is enough. And it seemed like it was, because the people in Congress were shook. You know, when people come in and they say, hey, they're coming to get you, you're going to be a little bit scared when you get back.
Didn't necessarily have to happen. Stand on what is happening right now. Don't go back to what happened this summer. Again, I think it's apples and oranges. Don't talk about the Black Lives Matter. Don't talk about the protests. We can all deal with that. Let's talk about what happened today. This is supposed to be the
I'll say it if they don't want to say it. Black Lives Matter protests that turned violent largely as a consequence of police altercations and largely a consequence of police escalations. But also, that was a legitimate protest. That was a legitimate grievance. And I do not care that it turned violent, because ultimately that cause was just. What is happening today, is not legitimate. It is a completely illegitimate protest. Don Lemon said as much earlier in the day, or earlier in the broadcast, but I don't think he doesn't have that kind of liberty to be able to fully say it. Be like, I don't give a fuck that the BLM protests had violent outcomes ultimately. He can't say that. They should have looted and vandalized and assaulted and murdered to become a legitimate protest. I mean, it's nuts. Like, the comparison is just ridiculous. Oh, is this where she got shot? Oh, okay.
All right, so you saw what we did there, right? We froze the video to save you the aftermath. I have to be honest with you. This is a discretion call editorially that we make to kind of insulate you from the reality of violence. I've always thought it was a mistake.
I think we should show it.
I think it's a mistake at war. I remember covering the Iraq War and being over there, and you guys lost interest. And you didn't want to see dead bodies anymore. And I think that when you get numb to it, you start to forget the significance. Yeah. It matters that she was taken out there today. It didn't have to happen. It should have never happened. None of this should be happening.
But we showed Ahmaud Arbery being shot on camera. We showed George Floyd losing his life on camera. We show a lot of people who were killed by police, mostly black people, black men, being killed on camera. We should show that woman being killed on camera.
Dude, Don Lemon is such a liberal, dude. The answer isn't fucking to have like white bodies who are dead be shown and plastered on camera. The answer is not showing black bodies in violence porn.
We should show that.
It's like such a fucking lib take to just be like, no, we should literally flip it and like show dead white people as well. No, the point is not to show dead black people. What the fuck?
Because we're not in a place where you're sensitive.
I mean, I also don't want them to show it because I'll get banned. But
that's how you can have people break into your Capitol today and immediately have it explained away by people. Now, let's get to somebody
it's such a lib take, dude, to just be like, we need equal representation in the murder porn category. Which, by the way, he's right. Like, Don Lemon is right. He's right about the grievance when he mentions the fact that like black people and brown people, like victims of crimes against humanity when it comes to immigrants and shit, like their bodies are shown very liberally. They will show dead bodies of black and brown people all the time. It's disgusting. I've talked about it during the George Floyd stuff. I stopped showing it at a certain point. I always thought that like it's important to show the gruesome imagery, to show the humanity being taken away from someone. Okay? I also personally thought it's important for like white people to see that reality. But I realized that I think it's not great. I think it's really gruesome. And it's just trauma porn that you're playing over and over again. And like people literally don't do that for white people. They just don't. And it ultimately, ends up being more harmful in my opinion, which is why I stopped. You were such a dumb cuck, you're lying. The only reason you're not showing is because you would get banned from Twitch. Stop being a hypocrite, you soy lord. No, when I was at the Young Turks and I had all liberty to show whatever the fuck I wanted to show, I used to do it and I stopped. What a fucking freak, dude. My man said soy lord. Yikes, dude. Yo, why don't you go storm Congress, brother? What the fuck are you doing here? You got lost on your way over to DC, dude? My man's in my chat typing soy lord instead of fucking hanging out with the rest of the hogs over in DC.
Some of my House colleagues that I've had
What is
conversations
a soy lord, dude?
explain that they were supporting this effort.
Yo, when a dude writes soy lord in the Twitch chat, you immediately out yourself as the kind of guy who wears like a Kekistan flag at the Trump rally. Like, you know that guy who was at the Trump rally yesterday? Not today. The one who was wearing like fucking full kitted out like Holy Crusade gear with like a Kekistani flag? That's what you sound like, dude. Nobody's impressed by your vernacular, brother. It sounds so cheesy and so lame.
Those members of Congress who have supported this specious attack on the Electoral College vote will have their names permanently written in ink, and everyone should know those names. I will never look at my colleagues who voted for these challenges, who supported these challenges, who fueled this insanity. I will never be able to look at them the same. And that includes some of my Michigan colleagues that I could not look in the eye today when we were huddled in a safe place. I could not look them in the eye with any degree of respect. I hope we remember those